Hello all, Jamie Rodgers here from Craftmania, and today I'm bringing you a brand new video that's focusing on a product that came out recently that I've absolutely been dying to get my hands on. We will be taking a look in this video at Sue Wilson's incredible 3D embossing folders and matching stencils. Now these come out just a couple of weeks ago, but in honesty, we haven't been able to get hold of enough stock to be able to bring you to do a video with them. But today we have enough, and I can share with you some of the creations that I've been making with them, and of course talk about our incredible bundle offer on these. Now before we jump into that, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and tap the bell so that you get our notifications. If you're watching on one of our social media platforms, then please make sure you're following us there too, because we want to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. Now your bundle, this is genuinely such an addictive and fun set to play with. There are so many ways we can play with them, so many inks and potions and bits we can bring in to colour them with, and the embossing is just out of this world. Now I promise I'll show you more detail overhead shortly, and I'll show you lots of cards and we'll do some demos, but just as a quick teaser to show you what you'll actually be getting in your bundle. Now I keep saying bundle, but you can of course buy these individually as well if you prefer. But what we have for you, our first one here is this beautiful big flower. These actually are your stencils, and there are 2 stencils in here. You can see that just over this side of your packaging, and they're going to give you the ability to layer and colour in many ways. You then have your coordinating embossing folder, which of course is a 3D folder, which is going to give you such depth. We then just lay on the stencil and colour over the top of it. We then have for you, and this is my favourite, this is our rose design. I have fallen so in love with this, and hopefully you will too when I show you the samples. But we have our beautiful roses, 2 stencils in that set, and of course your 3D folder to match. Then we have got this one. Now, to me, this sort of folk art style is absolutely beautiful, and you can see on here them trio of gorgeous big leaves that are just screaming out to be coloured and added to, aren't they? We then of course have your matching 3D folder to go with that one. And then lastly, we've got your Daffodil set. Now this one again has your incredible stencil set, 2 stencils in this one just like the others, and of course your Daffodil embossing folder. Now as I mentioned, these can all be bought individually, so if you've already perhaps picked up the embossing folder and didn't go for the stencils at the time, then you can of course just go and pop on the website and buy either one if you wish to, or as always, the hugest saving is by going for all of it. Now all of it will give you all 4 sets, so that means you're going to get the stencils and the embossing folders to each one of the ones we've just been looking through, and the saving on this is quite impressive actually. Your bundle price should be, your recommended retail price is £69.96. Your offer price is just £55.99, which is great, isn't it? That's a huge saving. It means that we might be able to treat ourselves to a few other crafty goodies as well while we're on the website. Now, if you've not shopped with us here at Craftmania before, you might not know this, but anytime you spend over £5, your P&P for the UK shipping is completely free. So spend £5, free UK P&P. If you're watching us from abroad, no problem. We will post these out to you anywhere in the world. Our international shipping is capped at just £10. Now, if we find your P&P cheaper than £10, we will actually refund the difference for you. Being honest, with shipping what it is at the moment, it's not very often that happens, and it tends to cost quite an awful lot higher than £10. If it does, do not fear. Here at Craftmania, we will pay that for you. So the most you are paying is £10 to have these sent to you anywhere in the world. Now then, let's jump on in and have a little look through these in more detail, show you lots of samples and show you how they work, because honestly, I think you're going to be blown away by this bundle, and you're going to be clicking on that website as soon as you can to get these ordered, because I have a feeling you're going to love them. So let's start off by having a little look at the rose set. Now this is the rose garden set. We've got your 3D embossing folder, and we've got your duo set of stencils. Now as you can see by the diagram on the front here, these are the apertures that are going to be on your stencil that are going to give you the ability to ink through or apply a texture paste, your different mediums through to actually colour these designs. Now when we look inside the folders, this might be something you've not seen before, but a 3D folder is all different layers and different sort of curved elements. Unlike traditional folders, there's a lot more achievability with them to actually give you that 3D effect and that layered style. The Rose Garden one is, as I mentioned earlier, probably my favourite from this set, but they're all beautiful. It is genuinely hard to choose. Now, when we go and have a little look at what that creates, when we send this through on its own, this is the level of embossing it's going to achieve. Now, today we're going to be talking mostly about colouring on top of your folder, but never forget, with such depth, we can actually use the reverse as well. Now, the good bit with the stencils is we might need them round one way to colour on the front. Let's see if we can get this in position. Oh, give me a second, I'll get there. Here we go. So you might need it one way for the front, but you can of course reverse that to also use them on the reverse too. So if you wish to colour into the indentations instead of on the front of them, you of course can. You can also do what we class as a grouting technique, which is great too, where you actually put texture paste over the top and just apply it with a spatula or one of them lovely tools I was using on last week's video, to make sure that all of these indentations are filled full of texture paste. Now, you might wish to colour and then put it over like a clear texture paste or a sparkly texture paste, or you might wish to infill each area with different colours. It's just that much depth gives you so many more options and really looks incredible. Even if you just wipe an ink pad over the top of it and highlight just the top layer and let all them sort of depths do their own magic. Now, we'll be colouring actually on the top of this one today, so let's turn this over. Let's bring in that stencil we just had, and we'll start off with the leaves actually. Now, just give me a second to line this up, and we're going to turn that to that side round so that we're working with it on the top there, and we're going to bring this in. Now, of course, you can use one of our magnetic boards to hold this down in place if you wish to. You can tape it if you wish to. I'm personally never that good at being right, and I just tend to hold things in place and ink them through. Now, the good bit is you can see straight away that everything lines up for you, so there's no real challenge here. Everything's in place, and we've just got to go through with the colour that we wish to use. Now, I'm falling in love with, and I don't think these are necessarily designed for blending at all, but they're one of my favourites at the moment because they're quite bold. I'm also using Skinny Mini blending brushes by Jane Davenport. Now, again, this possibly isn't the sort of brush I started with. I started with a traditional blending brush, but found that these ones really got down into the nooks and crannies, and they're quite small. So if at any stage with some of the designs you might find that you've got a flower closer to that area than you want it to be, it's a good way to keep depth and actually get it just into the area that you need it to colour. So we'll carry on colouring, just going over the top of this one. Now, straight away you can see by embossing first, which you don't have to do, you can colour first and then emboss, but by colouring second, where your embossing has potentially added in all of your deboss areas. When we emboss card, the fibres of the card break, and when the fibres break, they take ink on differently, they absorb it differently, it goes on more intently. So where we've got the sort of creases of the veins on the leaves, you'll find that the actual edges colour more intense. And I really like that because it just gives you shading without actually you having to do anything. Where if we'd coloured first and then embossed, we wouldn't have that helping hand being created by the emboss work. So as you can see, ever so easy to do. Just carry on adding your colour over the top of this one. Everything on this layer of the stencil is all green, and we can really play around, and this is quite nice as well, showing you the shading. I'll show you a sample shortly where I've done it all just in one colour of ink and just shaded it differently, just applied more pressure and more ink to create depth to my creation. So add that over. When ready, we can remove and see what we've created. Now, already I think we've got a stunning effect. Now, you might wonder actually, before we move on, these three circles at the top here, these are designed to come in and coordinate with the circles in the middles of these flowers. And you've got one for each of them. They're also numbered. You might see that engraved on here as 1, 2, and 3. So you can pick which one you need to put them over. So again, everything has been thought of for you. I haven't really used them, to be honest, but you absolutely can do if you want to. And this is the beauty of these. It's down to how much you want to put onto them and how you want to work with them. It's like, now I'm going to move on to using some more ink for my roses. You might decide that you wish to apply texture paste or gilding polish or one of the other mediums that are available to actually colour them instead. So we're going to lay this one down over here. and we'll do some roses. Now I can tell you already, and I have done this intentionally, I've picked a layer at this stage where bits are slightly closer to areas that I might not wish to colour. And I'll show you how I've got round that with mine. Now again, you can mask off areas. There is no reason why you can't bring in some masking tape and cover off areas if that's what you would prefer to do. For me, I just tend to hold a piece of card over them and protect them in that way instead. So this time we are using, what one are we on actually? We are on Tulip Red, which is another VersaFine Clair ink. As I said earlier, these aren't necessarily the inks that you would traditionally blend with, in my opinion. They're a great detail stamping ink. They're also great for heat embossing, but I actually found that these colours worked really nicely for what I wanted to share with you today. Shady Lane is one of my favourites. That was the green we were using earlier. So I tend to use that whenever I can do. With this one, we're actually going to build up our layers slightly, and we're going to use this beautiful Tulip Red, and then we're going to go on with some distress inks because there's nothing stopping us from playing around with our layers. Now you might already start to see what I mean about how easy it is with this brush. Because it's quite controllable, we can get quite close up to the edges without having to fear that we're going over the sides. When I started playing with these, I was using some of my larger blending brushes and found it slightly trickier to see when I was going into other areas. But if you're used to playing with them, you might not have a problem, you might really enjoy them. That's of course no problem. But do have an experiment. We're then going to go on and we're going to pick up, and this is an old pad, you might even see all the glitter on it. I'm such a messy crafter. Everything gets covered in a bit of sparkle and a bit of glitter. But this one, I must have had this 7 or 8 years, I would guess, and it's still going strong. I've never refilled it, but yet use it all the time. So we're going to add in a bit of shading going around here with some of our aged mahogany. And this is just to really give some more depth to our roses. And you're going to see I've used a mixture of aged mahogany. I've used the Tulip Red that we started off with. I've used a little bit of fired brick on some of mine as well. But you can really achieve some great levels of colouring and shading. As we build up our roses, we're going to turn our attention next to some of the smaller flowers. Now, I haven't really particularly come in and masked anything off, actually. We might do that in a moment when we add that flower in. But if you need to, it's nice to know that you can. Just a small offcut of card can really be helpful to protect any areas that you feel you don't want to sort of get with the colours you're working with. We're then going to use Scattered Straw, and this is an oxide ink. And we're going to bring this one in to add in a couple of our flowers. So we're just going to hold this one over the top here to protect those roses. And we're going to go in over the top of these little flowers. Now, of course, you could do more colours. You could, of course, choose to colour these with a pen instead of ink. If you wish, not everything has to be inked. You could use your gilding polishes, your gilding waxes, your texture pastes. There is a whole host of ways that you could be adding more sort of sparkle and depth to these if you would prefer, instead of just playing with inks. Now we're going to mask around this one, and we're just going to add some colour over the top of this one. Now another nice bit to note with our oxide inks, obviously, is the way these are formulated. These will become the top layer. So if we go over the red, or we happen to get a little bit of red on an area that we didn't want to, by applying the oxide ink over the top of it, it will infill that and you're not going to see it. And that's quite a nice tip. It's more of a solid ink, so it's going to cover over them other areas. Just add in these small little flowers. And this is something I really love, actually. They've thought of everything, or Sue's thought of everything. She's given you all of these extra pieces, all of these extra little flowers around the edges that really actually bring it to life and make it sort of that depth and impression that we want it to be, that wow factor that we want to achieve. And the way they've added them onto the stencils just makes it easy for us to really go in and highlight them without having to try and do it by hand. You know, pre-stencils to coordinate with embossing folders, we would have either had to have painted this by hand, or we would have had to have attempted with an ink pad, and you wouldn't have been able to get quite so many colours as we can do by actually doing it this way round. So in there for this little flower over on the side, and then we're going to go for that little small flower there. Now I'm trying to be quick because I know that the last thing you want to do is watch me colouring for a long time, but of course you could be changing colours for each of these flowers if you would prefer to. So Add on a little one to that one. And then we've just got these couple of bits to go around this edge. Now again, if you want to tie down your stencil or mask it down with some tape, another one of the things I really love using is the Wendy Vecchi magnetic boards. They're great for holding them down while you're working on them. Then absolutely do so. This is just me being lazy really, and flying by the seat of my pants a little bit more than I should be by doing it by eye, moving the stencil to where I want it to be. So we'll have a little look at what we've achieved, shall we? Let's take that one out of the way. Now, isn't that glorious? I love this. I just think, and I've said this on so many videos over time, I'm not the best at colouring. You've possibly witnessed that. You've possibly seen that. You possibly agree with that. That's all fine. And actually being able to go in and create something like this so easily, I'm just so pleased that I can do that. I can achieve that. I can create something that I'm pleased with without having to really spend that long on it. And really, it's achievable for me. It's achievable for everybody. And I think that's just a great ability to have. Now, if you want to, and you certainly don't have to, I quite like going in, and these little pens, these are something I go on and on and on about. And I'll show you some different pens shortly. But these are ones I really love. These are our Nova metallic markers. And I find that if you want to just highlight the stems, I'm doing these in gold, but you can of course do them in green if you prefer. There is of course a green in the set, but it's just a really nice way to go in and highlight some of the details and pick out the bits if there's anything that the stencil hasn't done that you wished it had, or any dots in the middle of your flowers that you want to highlight. I think they're just a nice way to do it. So I'm not going to do all of this because I could get really carried away and we could be here for hours watching me just do one. But I find that a really nice way to add just a little bit of sparkle and a little bit of depth to that as well. So let's show you a few finished samples that I've created. We'll clear off that desk just quickly. And I'll show you just a couple of the bits I've already done. So this is of course with your rose garden. So that's it again, without any colour added to it. Great to use as you see it. Such a wow factor of an embossing folder. But here's a few I've coloured. So this one was done very similarly to what you've just seen me do. But at the end of it, I took some tea dye ink and I literally took the pad and actually went straight over the top of it. And this again is, it's a dry older pad, but it's quite a nice way to tone everything together. And if you don't want to add in the stems or the extra leaves by pen, see suddenly we've added a bit of colour to these leaves at the back here. It's just quite a nice way to tone it down, give it a bit more vintage feel, cover over any bits we may have missed or that the stencils didn't highlight. And that's a little tip that I found really brought that together. Now I also went in with a blending brush with the same tea dye and toned down the background. And for this one I was working on coconut white card, so it was slightly less bright than the one you see here. But it's just having that sort of fun and playing with them and layering with them and going to town with different inks over the top of them. And I just think this is something that's so easy to do and yet so creative. And I'm so pleased with the results I can achieve. Another little tip I'd give you, and this is something I've again been playing with quite a bit, and you're going to see this through the other examples, is using icicle pearl card. Now I'll put this on the same page on the website, but I love how pearl card colours with inks, especially distress inks. They go in and they take on that pearl and you get this beautiful shimmer over the top of your actual creation just because we've worked on pearl card. So I coloured in a very similar way. Now the next one I'm going to share with you, this is my favourite card from all of the examples I've created. I love vintage, I love that toned down style, and this is so easy to create. Again, this time I was playing with distress inks, so aged mahogany for my flowers. I used an oxide ink in green for my leaves. I can't remember which one that was actually, evergreen I believe, evergreen bow, but I did the green over that. I've coloured it, and then I've taken one of our gilding polishes. I keep going on about these, I sneak them into most videos, but I've taken one of the treasured gold gilding polishes and I've lightly wiped that over the top here. You could do the same with gilding wax or gilded touch, but just highlighted the edges of the flowers and the leaves to bring that together. Now in the background, you might notice this. A few weeks ago, we did a lovely vintage bundle and I've stamped one of the label stamps from that bundle, just repeating it across the card with the aged mahogany. I've then gone round and just aged the edges with some tea dye ink as well, just to tie that together. But I really love this one. I don't often say that, but I really like this very vintagey style that could be created. But it's nice to see how we can go vintage, or we could go quite bright and modern, or we can go for some sort of middle ground. And it's always going to be about which colours you bring into it. Now, as you can see, I've stuck to my roses being red, but of course roses come in many colours. So you could really sort of create different styles or different colours for different occasions. Then if we move on, we'll have a little look at Sunshine Serenade. So I'll bring these two in. So again, you've got your double set of stencils, you've got your embossing folder, 3D again, beautiful effect this is going to create. This is the depth you're going to achieve just by sending this through your machine. Once again, you use it for the front or the back. Look how beautiful that is. That is so, so pretty. It even actually looks like a clay mold, as if you could put clay in it and take a mold from it. These are so deep and so impressive. I'm not convinced you possibly couldn't, to be honest with you, but it's so beautiful. And again, a fun one to colour. Now this time I've gone quite vintage with my shading, a bit more tea dye ink, some of our scattered straw for the flower, and then I've just used a variation of the greens going from the shady lane and the evergreen both around the sides here. I also brought in a little bit of distress ink in pine needles, and this is something I do a lot of, is actually play with the different types of inks. So you're going to see that I've gone from VersaFine Clear to Distress Oxide to Distress Ink. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it looks quite lovely when it's finished, but of course you can just stick to one type if you prefer. Then a different idea for you. This one's actually done on black card, and I've taken a matte chalk polish in a lilac, I think it's called Wisteria, and I've just brought that down the black card to create sort of a wood grain effect. And then I've gone in and coloured different areas, and I've coloured over the top of that lovely lilac. I've used a lot of our Oakwood glitter brush pens, which is how you're going to get that sort of shimmer come through. And I've also used a gold gel pen, and a gold gel pen is brilliant because anywhere you want to go in and highlight the detail, you can quickly just draw down and add in that detail. Same with the flowers. I've added to the little dots in the middle. I've gone over the details on the petals. I've added the centres of these little flowers as well, all just with a gold gel pen, and you'll find these of course on our website too. Now I mentioned earlier about playing with that lovely icicle card. This again is another one done with the icicle card, and again you're going to see that gold gel pen come to life. I really love adding these gold veins into these sort of sprig bits, and I also found with the leaves it really brought them to life. Now I'm not convinced that if with a little bit of tweaking we couldn't turn this one into more of a Christmas design by adding some poinsettias or something different over one side of it, and that might be something you want to play around with, is layering different elements into them and also cutting them down. You know, they start off as a 5x7 if I remember rightly, but we don't have to keep them as a 5x7. We could very easily trim that part off and put that onto a DL or a slimline card, or we could turn it into a square. It's, you know, up to you, but certainly trimming them is advisable to create different styles. Then onto the folk art blooms. Now this one is really cool. Being honest with you, I've told you these have been out a little while. This one has by far been the most popular of the designs. As I said earlier, I think the rose for me pips this one to the post out of the collection, but they're also beautiful. It is hard to choose, but I know that our customers have been going for this one a little bit more than the others, and it is a beautiful design. So let's show you how this one looks. Again, just done on white to show you that depth, to show you that impression, show you how beautiful this is. And don't forget, I've done all of my samples on cut down pieces. This could actually be the front of your card if you wanted it to be. You could open your card out, put it into the folder and send it through. One of the bits I've noted, and I don't know if it's down to the folder or the machine, but I'm not getting the lines around the edges that you can do with some embossing folders. So even if your card blank was bigger or you wanted to multi-emboss, there's no reason why you couldn't. By multi-embossing, I mean use a larger sheet, possibly emboss from the top and emboss from the bottom, and then your pattern would look at each other. That could look really lovely. And of course, you could do the same with your stenciling over the top. Now, when we bring in our cards for this one, it's a great one to play with. The stencils break down these different parts of the leaves. So if you do wish to colour the middle of the leaf a different shade to the outside, you absolutely can do. I had a little bit of movement when I was colouring through my stencil on this one. So I've got this little sort of halo of purple going around that flower. I actually really liked that. Felt it made it more sort of realistic, perhaps, maybe less crisp, and I quite enjoyed that. If you wanted it to be, you could of course cover that one up or do it again, or do it to all of them, but I like to show you the difference so you can see what I mean. I've also taken that tea dye ink pad with this one and gone over the top of my design, and that too has highlighted all of the sort of stem and swirls that have been created on this design. You might also notice little pops of silver. That is once again achieved from my Nova metallic pen. I've coloured over the flowers, the different dots onto this flower, just to bring out some silver elements. This one was a fun one. So this one I coloured it, or I embossed it. I then brought in a a distress oxide in I've lost the name now, in a purple. Again, I'll put it on the relevant page for you. It's not this purple, believe it or not. Seedless Preserves, that's the one I'm trying to think of. Not a distress ink, but an oxide ink. So oxide in Seedless Preserves all the way over the panel to turn it purple, which I could have done before I embossed it had I known where I was going with it. And then I've coloured it. And again, I've got a mixture using the Oakwood glitter markers. These are so much fun. If you've not seen these before, actually, we've not played with these, have we? So this one's been a bit played with, shall we say. It's been a bit used and abused, bless it. But all we have to do is just give it a little squeeze and the colour comes down to the tip of the pen, and we can then just go in and colour over what we want to and add on this really cool sparkly shade. And I really like these. I know a lot of you have been collecting the different colours for these. There's an awful lot of colours to collect, but they do give you that beautiful shimmer. It is really, really pretty. And the way that the nib is so ultra fine, or I say nib, it's more like a brush. If you want to, you can just go in and highlight different small areas. It doesn't have to be the whole leaf if you don't want it to be. But either way, you're going to get that beautiful sparkle, which is exactly what I've been doing with this one. So you'll see elements that have been coloured with the Oakwood pens. That was actually from a lovely tealy blue in the collection. And then you've got a lot of the metallics coming in, which of course are the Nova pens that I keep going on about. I love them. I sneak them in wherever I can. Then on to the last one for this one. Again, Icicle Pearl card, just coloured over with our distress inks. Little hints of the Nova pens brought in to colour, and then the gold gel pen was used to colour in the detail on the petals and including these little bits around here. So just mixing between my pens to create different styles. But it shows you how you can create such different effects with just one folder and one set. And I love this about this collection. It's so down to how you want to colour them and what you want to create with them. Now the Daffodil Dreams set, this again, beautiful style. We've of course got your embossing folder, we've got your duo set of stencils in there. It's going to create that beautiful 3D embossed effect when it goes through just as a folder, if that's how you'd like to use it. And of course you can use the front or the reverse, just like we've been talking about with the others. Now with that one, or this card, all I wanted to do was highlight just how beautiful that texture is. So I've done it in black card. I've brought in treasure gold gilded polish. I'll get there in a minute. And I've brought that down over the top just to highlight that texture. I've added my thinking of you on the banner here, intentionally covering up the trumpet of the daffodil, because I can't pretend I know the world about flowers, so you might think I'm being silly. But I felt if I covered up the trumpet, these could be all manner of different styles of flowers, and that actually possibly extended the amount of time in the year I'm going to want to be using this folder. I also felt this one being in that sort of black and gold was quite nice, possibly for masculine style cards. So many times we avoid flowers for masculine cards, but I often mention this. My father-in-law absolutely loves his garden. He spends most of his days in his greenhouse, and it's always floral cards we try to get hold of for him, or of course I create. So it's nice to be able to show different styles that we can make for him with these. Then moving on to this one. So this one again is using our Icicle card. I know I've mentioned this earlier in the video. I've just coloured everything in one shade of blue. This is Blueprint Sketch by Distress Oxide. So again, another oxide ink. And all of those, put my stencils on, and I've coloured more intently through certain areas and let that beautiful Icicle Pearl card absorb the colour and shade these to make them in all different shades and let them pop in their own way. I then took the blending brush that I was using and I've lightly gone over the top of it to colour the Icicle Pearl so it's got that nice blue and white feel to it, and then layered it up. I've used the same ink to stamp in the reverse here with a French script stamp by Sam Paul, and I've coloured icicle pearl just around the edge, just by sort of 1/4 inch with the matching ink pad, so it all ties together. But actually working just in one shade, I thought was a really lovely way to create a very different style. Now, because of these two, I've done gilded polish and we've done just one tone ink. I did want to show you how you could really bring these daffodils to life using the stencils, playing with the inks, and that is exactly what I've done here. So using the different shades that I had available, so I've got a little bit of Distress Oxide in Scattered Straw, we've got a little bit of Wild Honey from the Distress inks, we've of course got our greens coming in again using the Shady Lane from the Versafines, and we've got a little bit of Pine Needles. There's also a little bit of tea dye been brought into. It's just a really fun combination to work with. And then again, added in some details with my gold gel pen. I've also used a different Sam Paul stamp in the background. This is like a textured lace stamp, and it's one I really love. It's quite nice to stamp to bring out the green of the leaves into the background, but without it having to be a solid edge like I did here when I used the ink around the sides. So it just gives you a slightly different style, an idea of how you're going to be able to use that one. But I think when we start bringing in all of these cards, you can see how all of the different colours and different ways are certainly going to work for you throughout all of the designs. And it's just down to you finding and playing and experimenting with what style of inks, texture paste and mediums you're going to want to be working with to create these fun styles and cards. Well, I hope you enjoyed having a little look for all of the cards and that they've inspired you to see what you could create with these incredible embossing folders and stencils. Now, if you would like to get hold of the bundle, don't forget you can, of course. It is on one incredible special offer. It should be £69.96, but your offer price is only £55.99. That, of course, includes free UK P&P, because let's be honest, once you've bought out for your bundle, the last thing you want to do is add on P&P charges. So don't forget, anytime in the UK, free P&P anytime you spend over £5. Now, if you do live internationally, then of course your P&P is capped at just £10. We try to keep that as inexpensive as we possibly can for you. And if you'd like to know about how our international shipping works, just pop online, have a little look under the customer service tab, and it will take you through and tell you about how our UK and our international P&P works. Now, all of the bits that I've been sharing with you, and of course your bundle, your individuals, and of course all of the inks, brushes, dyes, cardstock that we had a little look through on the sample cards will all be on the same page on the website. So just head online to www.craftmaniacrafts.com, have a little look for the YouTube bit, click through, and then you will find today's video, where the video will also be, so if you do want to come back and watch this at a later date, you can find it there, and you'll find all of the goodies that we've been looking through. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you're going to get creative with these, I would love to see what you're doing with them. Please don't forget to join us on our exclusive Craftmania Facebook group, which is called Create with Craftmania and Jamie Rodgers. It's a private group, so you will have to answer just a couple of questions. It's free to join. There's nothing taxing. It's just like, what's your favourite products? And then tick the rules bit. We like to make sure you've read the rules, just so that we can keep our group friendly and a happy environment, safe environment for all of our 3,500 members. So make sure you tick the box and then send in your request, and we will accept you as soon as possible. Once you're in the group, you can share with us what you've been creating, you can ask us any questions, and you can also get to see little sneaky peeks of bits that are coming up, and of course other people's creations, which truly help to inspire all of us. Now, thank you very much for watching today. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye for now.